If there's two topics you shouldn't talk about during dinner, it's religion and politics. I mean, that's what all of us are told, and that's what most of us do. You know, if you're a bit like me, then you don't really get around such rules quite a lot. But for about 90% of you, that's the case. You don't discuss anything controversial, or you don't discuss anything at all usually while dinner. It's usually something related to entertainment. Is usually a topic that's very easy to talk about. But I think that we should do the opposite. We should do the exact opposite. And on the contrary, all we should be talking about is religion and politics during dinner. Let me explain. A few days back, a friend of mine and I, we went out to have pasta, right? It was a good meal. We cooked it at home and we ate it. While we were cooking pasta, a very difficult topic came across, something that's not very easy to talk about, something that's a bit controversial, something related to politics, it was related to psychology, it was related to philosophy, how people lead their lives, how the actions of a few men can change the outcome of millions of men, stuff like that, but that's not really important. What I'm talking about is the fact that we were able to have a conversation very coherently with each other, a very difficult conversation very coherently with each other, while we were doing one of the easiest, most leisurely activities that we could possibly do during our day. Right? And I think everyone should follow that. If you can take criticism without perceiving it as a personal attack, if you can listen to stuff without being offended at it, I think you should listen to offensive stuff all the time, right? And there's a couple of reasons for that. And again, I believe that whenever we discuss a very difficult subject during our down times, usually, or is what I would call it. If and when we're discussing a very difficult subject during our down times, during a very easy time, by easy time I mean times that we can survive in, times that we can live in very easily. If you can discuss a very difficult subject during a very easy time, if you can partake in a difficult conversation per se during your down times, or at a very easy time. By easy time, what I really mean is that some time where where you're not really thinking about anything, when you're really doing nothing, when you're just doing something due to force of habit, but you're not really thinking about it, and your mind's extremely empty. You can wander around, you can mentally wander around, and that's exactly what happens with shower thoughts. When we're taking a shower, when we're taking a bath, we're not usually, or we're not very accustomed to discussing, even thinking about something that's very hard to think about in the first place, right? You just take your shower and you rinse yourselves and you apply your soap, shampoo, whatever, and you're out in the next 15 or 20 minutes, right? But our mind has a tendency to wander, and we can't really live without thoughts per se, because our brain moves at very, very fast speeds. Our brain moves at our brain actually moves at light speed, actually, because the way our neurons work is we transmit electrical impulses. So like we were thinking, or when we have shower thoughts, when we're not really thinking about anything, that's exactly when we get the most creative aid possible, when we're the most creative, when we don't really expect anything. And that's because when we're not working towards a goal, when we don't have a desired output, all of our inputs can come flooding in, right? The way your brain works is, whenever we have a desirable output or a goal to work towards, right? Whenever we have an output like this, and whenever we're trying to process something related to the output, we usually only let in inputs, or we usually only let in thoughts, or we usually only allow thoughts to stay in our brain, those which are very pertinent to the output, in case, or those which are very pertinent to the output we want, right? But whenever we don't have an output, whenever we're not really expecting anything in the first place, everything can come flooding in and it doesn't really matter, right? And that's exactly when we have the most amount of creative aid, because our brain thinks a lot more, because it can think about a lot more, because it's allowed to think about a lot more, right? And if we can make a difficult subject easy, or if we can partake in a difficult subject a lot easier, and if we have a difficult subject, or if we're discussing a difficult subject that's a lot easier to talk about, because it's an easier time to talk about it, or it's very easy to talk about it, we absolutely should talk about it. And I believe that it's these times, or it's these conversations, it's these difficult conversations that look extremely easy. These are the type of conversation that build your character, right? It's the difficult conversations that build your character. Except if they're not really difficult, they're very easy to talk about, because we're making it very easy to talk about. But you're cognitively, you're still running at a very, very high magnitude. You're still running at a very, very high speed. Right? And we should, and another tip, nothing that hasn't been covered before, but another tip that we can use is to partake in discussion and not debate, right? Because when we're discussing something, it's usually talking about a topic, right? And again, discussion and debate are not very far apart from each other. Both are attacks, right? Only difference between them is that discussion attacks a topic, while debate not only attacks a topic, but it attacks an opinion that a person holds. If you can attack a topic while only having a difference of opinions or difference of opinion, if you can attack a topic while only differing in opinion with whoever you're talking to, or if you can tear a topic apart down to its fundamental levels and build it back right together, along with a fruitful conclusion that you can take away, something that affects you in your daily life, without attacking the opinion, or only differentiating the opinion, or having only a difference of opinion with whoever you're talking to. I think that's the best way to carry a conversation forward, especially a conversation that's going to help you as times go by, right? Because again, morality, ethics, philosophy, or schools of thought, the difference between good and evil, the distinction that morality makes between these two seemingly objective realities, is growing thinner day by day. And if we do not stand up for what we believe to be right, or what we believe or what we perceive to be our understanding of the world, then more often than not, somebody else is going to come in with their own understanding of the world and then feed you theirs, so you follow theirs. And that essentially makes you a puppet, that makes you a slave with no original thoughts. And unless you do this in some manner or the other, I described to you I described to you one of the easier ways to do this, but unless you do this one way or the other, there is no escape, or whatever this rat race that all of your favorite influencers talk about. The rat race is essentially 1984. If you've read the novel 1984 by George Orwell, the rat race is essentially all these rich people out there that are feeding you their version of reality, or not exactly their version of reality, but the version of reality they want you to see, the version of reality they want you to accept. If you've read 1984 by George Orwell, this is exactly what happens with the political party that the main character, Winston Smith, I think that's his name, with the political party that feeds him all this propaganda information does. They feed him thoughts, and that's exactly what they're doing to you too. That's exactly what they're going to do to all of us. And then unless and until we have our own thoughts, we cannot live freely. And there have been examples in history where entire wars have been fought over freedom. Take any country that was colonized by Britain or Portugal or Spain or France, any country out there, then you'll know that there have been extremely violent wars fought over freedom. And right now, your personal freedom is being scrutinized, because you can attack a country, you can attack a person, you can attack a group of people, you can attack a single person, but you cannot attack their thoughts. You cannot physically attack somebody's thoughts, you can only influence them, right? You can only influence their thoughts. And unless you have your own influence over your own thoughts, you're not getting anywhere.